Dogs aren't just our best friends. They can also be our healers and saviors. Dogs not only sense our emotional and physical pain, but some dogs can even detect disease. Joining us to explain the scientific understanding of and their personal experiences with the special bond between human and dogs, we have, in our Google Hangout, Dr. Don Marcus, a pain management professor and author of The Power of Wagging Tails; Judy Ferdoni, Executive Director of Puppy Prodigies and owner of Ricochet, who is an American Kennel Club award-winning dog; Mark Beckoff, Professor of Ecology and Evolutionary Biology at the University of Colorado. And on the phone, we have Priscilla Sharp, who is a cancer survivor and owner of another American Kennel Club award-winning dog, Joy. Thank you guys so much for joining.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
I see a dog in the Hangout. I've never seen that before. Is that Ricochet over there?
That's Ricochet.
Dawn, what's your dog's name?
This is Weedy, and Toby's behind me in the background.
Great. Thank you guys so much for joining. So, Judy, do we have Judy here?
Yes.
I can't.
I'm close behind Ricochet.
Oh, okay, great. Well, Judy, I just wanted to go to you first, and I just wanted to ask you to tell us about Ricochet.
Okay. Well, Ricochet was supposed to be a service dog for someone with a disability, but she likes to chase critters too much. She had to be released from that role. And I kind of took her to the beach one day with the intention of having her do some fundraising for a boy named Patrick. At the time, he was 14 years old. So our plan was he surfed and she surfed, and Patrick had was run over by a car when he was about 14 months old. So he's a quadriplegic, but he also surfs. So the plan was for Ricochet, because she is a surfing dog, was for her to surf on her surfboard and Patrick to surf on his board, so that people could see what they had in common for the fundraiser. But at one point, Ricochet jumped off her surfboard and onto Patrick's.
Wow.
So pretty much her decision that that's what she wanted to do with her life. I would have never thought of anything like that. So for whatever reason, and I haven't never taught her to surf with somebody who's disabled. So she now has surfed with several different people, and she kind of adjusts the way that she surfs to their disability and gives them exactly what they need out there in the water. She surfed with one little boy who had a brain injury, or has one, and he was in a really bad car accident with his family, and his parents were killed. So he was afraid to go back in the water. But when he heard he was going to be able to surf with Ricochet, he got really excited. And Ricochet was able to go out in the water with him and relieve his fears, and kind of turned it into excitement, and really was a pivotal moment for that family.
Wow. So I'm going to also ask if we could speak to Priscilla, who I know we have on the phone. Priscilla, you have another award-winning dog from the American Kennel Club named Joy.
I do.
And can you tell us what makes Joy so special?
Oh, well, she's just our baby. When we got her, she was our fluffy Akita puppy, and she alerted on my husband's cancer when she was only 7 months old.
Wow.
And he didn't know he had prostate cancer. And she just went, she kept circling him and crying and wouldn't leave his side and wouldn't play. And he went to the doctor the following day, and sure enough, he had advanced prostate cancer. And when she was only 9 months, she did the alert on me, except I had the beginnings of colon cancer. And because of this dog, we're both cancer-free.
Wow. And you said this is an Akita?
She is a long-coated Akita.
And
she has also found cancer in total strangers.
There's something special about Akitas. Helen Keller chose them for a reason. I grew up with Akitas myself. And I just wanted to show our audience an article in Huffington Post about cancer-sniffing dogs trained by scientists. And you're saying that Joy wasn't even trained by a scientist. She just knew how to do it on her own as a baby, as a puppy.
No, just as a little pup, she automatically did it. She still does it.
Wow, that is fascinating. And we also have an expert with us. We're so happy to have Dawn, who actually connected us to Priscilla and to Judy. Dawn, thank you so much. I know that you've written a lot of books on pain management. You're a pain management researcher. 16 books, 3 of which were specifically about dogs and their ability to help people who are suffering to manage their pain. Can you tell us more about your work and how you fell into this?
Yeah, I fell into it primarily because I found out my own patients did a much better job making lifestyle changes they needed to do to get their own pain under control when they had a dog. So I started using them having a dog as a way to get them to do their walking program, structure their eating habits, sleeping habits, etc., and really began to find that when people had a dog in their life, that dog could sort of mentor the patient into having a more positive lifestyle and getting their pain and other symptoms under better control.
And there's so much anecdotal and just a mass of stories. There's just no shortage of stories of the amazing bond between man and dog. But you've actually been able to find empirical data, chemical evidence that there is actually a decrease in pain because of pet therapy?
Right, and we've actually done some research projects looking at whether having a dog in the office, and the dog I use, of course, is my dog, Weedy, has made a difference in decreasing symptoms. But I think, the most fascinating part is, as you're saying, studies have been done that show that there are actually biological, physiological changes that happen after doing nothing other than spending 10 or 15 minutes with a friendly dog, petting him or her. And when that happens, what people find is there's a significant drop in stress hormones levels like cortisol. There's a boost in your immune system chemicals, and there's also a boost in endorphin levels, which are your body's own natural painkillers. So when people say being around the dog decreases my stress, it makes me feel better, there's really biology behind that proves that that there really is something physiologically happening with that dog interaction.
Wow. And Mark, I want to bring you in so our audience can meet you. Thanks so much for joining us. Mark, can you tell us about the work that you do with animals and why we picked to have you on the segment today?
Well, I study animal emotions, and I'm really interested in this topic called anthrozoology, which is really looking at human-animal relationships. And so when I hear these stories about these close connections and this shared compassion and empathy, I look at it as a biologist, and it makes a lot of sense to me given the close relationship that humans have had with dogs during the process of domestication, and also looking at dogs as mammals sharing the same parts in the part of the brain called the limbic system that underlie emotional experiences and our emotional lives. So nothing that I hear surprises me at all based on what I know about the biology of this incredibly close and intimate relationship.
Well, I've got an article pulled up here, a Huffington Post article about a dog named Capitan who sat by his owner's grave for 6 years. How do you explain something like that?
There's a lot of stories like that. I explain it by just invoking the emotion of love, defining it as a real enduring attachment, an enduring and deep social bond. And the dogs miss their owners. You don't know whether they're waiting for them to come back or not. But there's enough stories there that really show in a very compelling way that this close bond doesn't necessarily depend on everyday interaction. It's like these dogs have the ultimate patience and are just waiting perhaps for their human companion or human guardian to come back.
And Judy, you were telling me earlier that Ricochet really takes on the pain of whoever she's around.
Yes, that's true. She has done some work with military with PTSD, and it's just amazing to watch her with each different gentleman and her knowing exactly what they need. She's able to reach them on a level that nobody else can.
Well, we've got another article on Huffington Post written by a 15-year-old student in New York, Murray Rosenbaum. And his article is about how he believes that dogs are the greatest stress relief in the world. And we were just talking a second ago with Dawn about how she's been able to measure stress. And if we can eliminate stress or at least reduce it, it's such a great form of preventative health care. And now that we have that type of scientific data, Mark, is this going to be something that helps us to protect animals from being euthanized all over the place, especially in these shelters?
I hope so. I mean, a lot of people look at dogs, well, maybe not a lot, but maybe too many people look at dogs in a very utilitarian way. And they think, well, once the dogs get old, they really can't do anything for us. But there's no reason to think that a geriatric dog doesn't retain that empathy, if you will, and that ability to reduce stress. And I think I told a story about my mom with an old dog. My mom had been bitten by a dog when she was very young, and she was undergoing some severe psychological, emotional, and physical disabilities. And one day, her friend's little teacup poodle jumped in her lap, and we all panicked, thinking my mother was really going to be upset. She wasn't very expressive at this point of her life. And she smiled and she hugged the dog. And as far as my father and caretakers could tell, they hadn't seen my mother respond that way in ages. And so, it's just, I think, as the woman just said before, it's the presence of the dog. You don't really have to have the contact. It's just this, what we call in ethology, this contact comfort that really soothes us. So I would hope that these dogs that people think are done, if you will be given another chance to be, if you will, stress relief.
Well, I once heard about this legend, an ancient legend from Australia, from a tribe called the Bindubi, or I'm probably massacring that word, Bindaibu tribe. But it's something about how when the earth, when creation, was one of those creation myths where when man and animal were being separated and there was this huge chasm in the earth, at the very last minute where the gap was becoming too big to traverse, dog jumped over to be with man. Do you think that we chose the dogs, or do you think the dogs chose us? Is it nature? Is it nurture? Why is it that we have this bond with dogs and not other mammals on the same level?
Well, I think it's due to the long process of domestication and this reciprocal bond. I don't like to think that, we chose them, they chose us. And in a wonderful book by Mark Durer called How the Dog Became the Dog, he really stresses the reciprocity. And so I think that that's how this tight bond and this reciprocal, the reciprocal bond, and the fact when we pet a dog, we show very similar physiological changes as does the dog. And I think that's how that real close link evolved, if you will.
And speaking of reciprocity, Judy, can you tell us some of the stories that you have? I know that you've been suffering in pain for most of your life with rheumatoid arthritis, and with other dogs that are suffering in shelters. Do you think that a solution could be that people who are suffering from pain should be adopting dogs in shelters?
I think that would be a wonderful idea. I know my other dog, Rena, I had open heart surgery almost 2 years ago. And when I came home, I was in a very fragile state. And I was afraid actually to be reunited with my dogs because I thought they would jump all over me from not having seen me in over a week. And surprisingly, I guess it's not really surprisingly, but they were so gentle. And in fact, I wanted Rena to cuddle up with me on the couch. And I was inviting her up on the couch. And she refused to get up on the couch. And I couldn't understand why. And then I got up off the couch. And then I asked her to get on the couch. And she very eagerly jumped on the couch when I wasn't on it. And it was pretty clear to me that she knew I was too fragile to take the risk of her to jump on the couch while I was there.
Wow.
So it was pretty phenomenal to me to watch that and to see how she knew.
Well, speaking of phenomenal, I want to roll a clip of Ricochet surfing in the ocean. Let's get that up.
This is a story about a quadriplegic who is an incredible athlete. Check him out. Patrick Iveson surfing with, who else? A dog. Patrick suffered a spinal cord injury as a result of an accident when he was just 14 months old. But that obviously is not stopping him from getting out and having fun like everybody else. The 15-year-old says he was inspired to surf after seeing the documentary Step into Liquid.
That was from KNSD, your local news station. So glad that they did that story on you. And we just would love to welcome, I guess, just open up the table. This whole segment is about telling stories. Does anyone else have a story about their dog or a dog that they've heard of that's done something incredible for a human?
Well, there's lots of incredible stories. The one thing that I would want to say is that dogs are there's so much more to dogs than we even know. And if everybody would just give their dogs a chance to be who they truly are, which is part of Ricochet's story, she chose her lifestyle and I just kind of agreed to it. And I've been on the most amazing journey for the last 5 years with this dog. So I think anybody who is questioning, should I turn my dog into a shelter because they just won't stop jumping on people or whatever their excuse may be, that they can take another look at their dog and really see the dog for who they are and what they can offer.
Well, we've got
the other advice. The other advice that I would suggest is, there are people who either, can't take on the cost or responsibility of taking care of a dog themselves, or may live in an apartment where that's just not really an option.
Yeah.
And for those people, you can still get the great benefits of spending time with the dog and getting, that therapeutic interaction, either by taking advantage of, walking your neighbor's dogs during the day, volunteering at a shelter. Shelters are usually thrilled to have people come and walk the dogs on a regular basis. And that way you really get the advantage of spending that time with some dogs without necessarily having all the cost and responsibility that may go into owning your own dog.
Absolutely. That's a really important advice for people who live in cities. And I just want to make sure we don't forget about Priscilla because we've got her on the phone. Priscilla, are you still with us?
Of course, I wouldn't miss it for the world.
Priscilla, we've also got some footage from your local news channel because they also did a story on you, KOBI. So we're just going to roll some footage so we can get another look at Joy and also want to make sure you have some more time to talk. So thanks for staying with us.
I would like to say that Joy, when we first got her, she's just a puppy, and she found Terry's and my cancer, but she began to alert on my low blood sugar by the time she was 2.5. And of course, she went into stores and stuff with me after that and has alerted in 2012 on 12 total strangers that are cancer patients.
Wow.
And as of 2013, in this month, she already alerted on another person. And her detection rate has been 100% so far.
So how many lives? How many lives would that be that we could say Joy is responsible for saving?
They all had cancer, and they knew they had cancer. But there have been 15 people thus far, counting Terry and myself.
Wow. And Mark, I know that you were trying to get in there earlier. Can you tell us a little bit more about the science behind this? How does a dog detect cancer? How does a dog, I know you mentioned earlier also that there are also dogs who can figure out when a stroke is about to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they're probably focusing in on changes in odor, scent, because that's really their primary, sensory modality. I don't know that anybody really knows the real details of this. And what's really mysterious, but it's also really alluring, is how the dogs know a certain scent means something's wrong.
Right.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, there's about 1,000 dissertations ready to be done to try to understand what we all know is going on. And that's what's really phenomenal to me. I don't have that explanation. What I was going to say before is like my dog Jethro, in line with one of the stories we just heard, he would know which person to go to in a room if that person was simply having a bad day.
Yeah, and Dawn, you've been bringing dogs into waiting rooms, people that are dealing with chronic pain. How do they know? Do you have any way to expand on that?
It's actually really rather magical and mysterious, I would say. Both of my dogs are hospital therapy dogs, and they visit people in the hospital. They go into waiting rooms. They also go into hospitals, intensive care units, etc. And one of the things I found particularly fascinating is when we go into a room, there's often the patient who, usually isn't real perky and enthusiastic and tired. And then you have the family members, and the family members are all, oh, come here, dog. You're so cute. I want to play with you. And invariably, Weedy or Toby will just bypass them, goes directly to the patient, sits down, starts attending to that patient. And the patient's always amazed, and they'll say, how did he know that I was the one who needed him? And after Weedy or Toby spends time with the patients, then they will go back and see the other family members. But they do really seem to be able to identify and pick out whether, they're identifying some behavioral attitude of the person, whether they're smelling something on that person. I don't really know, but I just really stand back in awe as, you see them really, seeking out that person who needs them and seeming to really understand, does the person want me to be, cute and bouncy? Does the person need me to be serious? Does the person just want to give me a hug and cry in my fur and have me there for them? And somehow they just seem to know who wants doggy kisses, who wants to just pet them, etc. And if they could tell me that, believe me, I would love to hear it.
Well, I've got a picture of my dog pulled up on my screen. This is Charles. And I had 3 knee surgeries a couple years ago, and my mom was trying to help me out through the whole process, and he would not get away from my knee. He knew that it was my knee. I mean, I'm sure he could smell maybe some of the blood or something like that from the healing, but he would not leave it. He tried to bite her once when she was trying to fix the bandages and everything. So it's just this, it's almost like a protection, and they take it as their duty. And I just, it was one of the most moving things I've ever experienced. I felt bad for my mom, but.
Can I say something?
Yeah, please, Mark.
You know what just struck me, and maybe this is a new idea, maybe not.
Great.
But I was just thinking about all the stories and then Jethro's behavior. I wonder if it's an odor, and they have such keen senses of smell. They're actually stressed themselves. Mm-hmm. So part of the stress reduction is they're trying to reduce their own stress. And maybe when they lean into another person, odor is really volatile and it may change. And then the dog feels better as well. And I was just thinking of some of Jethro's behavior when he would be in a room and one person was really having a bad day. He at first would seem nervous as well. So I don't know, but that might be one of the mechanisms, that it's almost like reciprocal stress reduction.
Yeah, that sounds like a thing that everybody should continue to look into in the medical community, because the more evidence we have to support that these dogs are really helping us, the more we'll be able to protect them and mirror their unconditional love and support. So I just wanted to thank you guys so much for helping us to explore this really magical, mystical, inspiring arena, and continue to tell your stories, because I know I love hearing them, and everyone watching probably really enjoyed this too. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for tuning in. We have a lot more coming up on HuffPost Live. Dogs aren't just our best friends. They can also be our healers and saviors. Dogs not only sense our emotional and physical pain, but some dogs can even detect disease. Joining us to explain the scientific understanding of and their personal experiences with the special bond between human and dogs, we have, in our Google Hangout, Dr. Don Marcus, a pain management professor and author of The Power of Wagging Tails; Judy Fredoni, executive director of Puppy Prodigies and owner of Ricochet, who is an American Kennel Club award-winning dog; Mark Beckoff, professor of ecology and evolutionary biology at the University of Colorado. And on the phone, we have Priscilla Sharp, who is a cancer survivor and owner of another American Kennel Club award-winning dog, Joy. Thank you guys so much for joining.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
I see a dog in the Hangout. I've never seen that before. Is that Ricochet over there?
That's Ricochet.
Dawn, what's your dog's name?
This is Weedy, and Toby's behind me in the background.
Great. Thank you guys so much.
Do some fundraising for a boy named Patrick. At the time he was 14 years old. So our plan was he surfed and she surfed, and Patrick had was run over by a car when he was about 14 months old. So he's a quadriplegic, but he also surfs. So The plan was for Ricochet, because she is a surfing dog, was for her to surf on her surfboard and Patrick to surf on his board so that people could see what they had in common for the fundraiser.
Much for joining. So, Judy, do we have Judy here?
Yes.
I
I'm
can't.
of course behind Ricochet.
Oh, okay, great. Well, Judy, I just wanted to go to you first, and I just wanted to ask you to tell us about Ricochet.
Okay. Well, Ricochet was supposed to be a service dog for someone with a disability, but she likes to chase critters too much. She had to be released from that role, and I kind of took her to the beach one day with the intention of having her. But at one point, Ricochet jumped off her surfboard and onto Patrick's.
Wow.
So pretty much her decision that that's what she wanted to do with her life. I would have never thought of anything like that. So for whatever reason, and I haven't never taught her to surf with somebody who's disabled. So she now has surfed with several different people, and she kind of adjusts the way that she surfs to their disability and gives them exactly